I guess to start off with, I might as well ask Anna a question of my own. You mentioned working with underrepresented audiences in your talk. How do you determine these audiences?
Thank you. Yeah, so great question. Basically, to begin with, you do have to start with the data, right? So you can't just assume that this person was represented or not. And so with our programs, I think I touched on the people who we class as underrepresented in our work are people from low socioeconomic backgrounds, people from minority ethnic backgrounds, people with disabilities, and people disadvantaged in terms of education. And that has been we've decided that from government data and all the data out there. There'll be other organizations who maybe want to focus on other things. We can't all focus on every group, nor should we, because then how is it going to be effective, right? So those are things that we are focusing on in our work. But we also conduct our own research. So as part of the UK Science Festivals Network, we do a workforce monitoring survey just to get the lay of the land and see areas where we can kind of improve and push and work with science festivals to kind of develop, the diversity in their employees and volunteer pools. And we also do a lot of monitoring with our own festival, the British Science Festival, around speakers and audiences and seeing how we can develop in those areas as well. So it's really a combination of, the official kind of government data and continual monitoring within your own organisation.
Sure, that makes sense. I guess the government data is all available online. Does the BSA also upload their data and monitoring online as well?
Yeah, we do. So the British Science Festival evaluation is always uploaded every year. We work with a lot of organisations as well to develop various reports on diversity monitoring. So we recently did one around the state of public engagement as well. So yeah, all of that is online. And to be honest, if there's something that you're particularly interested in, so I know Institute of Physics has done reports in the past around, workforce in physics and the researchers and that kind of thing. There will be the information there. There's tons and tons of reports now. So it should be easy enough to find something that is relevant to your work.
Fantastic. That'll be, I think, very useful for a lot of the attendees today. So I'm sure they'll be able to find that online. I'm going to move over to Toby. Something you discussed in your talk, Toby, was about digital exclusion and about not many families in Islington, for example, having devices in order to do the engagement. And you did say you approached the local councils, for example, to produce packs. How did those conversations come about? How did you, was it the IOP reaching out to the councils?
Yes, so we have, as part of our move to Islington, really forged a really deep relationship with our local council. We tend to do lots of engagement with local primary schools as a way of accessing families and viewing them as sort of community hubs where we can reach a huge range of different families quite straightforwardly. But that was something that we were, some conversation we had relatively early on, I think, about how things are being done in the borough to reach these families, because we knew that they would exist. We wanted to know what platforms were already in place, what work was already being done, because we can't just assume we know what is happening. We can't assume we know what everyone needs. So by working with the council and their access to the people that know these underserved audiences best, we can hopefully do things that are most impactful in terms of addressing those inequalities. So it was all about working with our partners, leveraging those networks we knew existed and making sure that we were following their advice rather than just striking out on our own and making all sorts of assumptions that people might not want or need at that time.
Brilliant, thanks, Toby. Yeah, that helps. That definitely answers the question. I think both you and Anna have definitely provided examples of where engagement is a collaborative process, and we have many stakeholders that we work with in order to make sure it is meaningful and successful, indeed. I thought I'd think of a question for both of you now. Yeah, we'll take it in turns, I guess. What has been your greatest challenge in engagement to date? Should we start with Anna? Anna.
haven't prepared for this. I mean, well, it feels like a bit of a cliche now, having talked about it all. But honestly, like organising that festival during the last year was really difficult. And I think, yeah, I think just everyone kind of being so uncertain and trying to like manage like so many different like stakeholders, expectations, like from researchers who are kind of uncertain about maybe wanting to come to the festival because of the pandemic, understandably, to, you know, internally our team being a bit concerned about it, but knowing that ultimately, you know, it took a lot of trust in one another. And again, it just comes back to that like trust and relationships and that kind of stuff. Which meant that it was able to be a success, and we had to take a bit of a leap of faith almost, because we were going into the unknown. And so yeah, I think that was the biggest. It was obviously the biggest challenges always come with the biggest rewards, I think. So you can't really, you've got to go through the thickets to get to the sun in the end. So yeah, that's
absolutely. I think that makes perfect sense. And yeah, you've definitely pulled it off this year with the festival in Chelmsford. Yeah, it was great to see it back in person as well, to be honest. Toby, the same question to you. What's your greatest challenge been in engagement?
Gosh, I will tell you a story about probably one of my very first engagement projects that I worked on. My career actually started at the British Science Association, and so it's wonderful to be sharing this platform with that. It's wonderful to hear what they're doing now. My first British Science Festival was as an intern at the University of Surrey, and that was in 2000 and I want to say 9, could be 2010, where I was running basically a chat show as part of the program, and we sort of brought on all of the guests from the science festival from the day to sit in this chat show and talk about their interesting things. And it was meant to be a really kind of accessible platform for the audience of the festival to be able to grill the speakers and ask questions and get their views in. And one of the speakers for the following day of the festival was a crime writer from Scotland, and he was going to do a talk about how he includes sort of forensic detail in his crime novels, which featured lots and lots of grisly murders and things, and sort of talk about how he works with pathologists and others and blah, 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 blah. And we were sort of on the phone with his agent as he was getting on the plane, and we thought, great, he's going to be brilliant for the program. Let's just book him, and he'll be landing at Heathrow. We'll speed him from Heathrow to University of Surrey to get him on the stage. Pretty much straight from the taxi onto the stage, and at no point did we actually talk to him. And the first question the host was asked was, so how do you get science content into your novels? And his first response was, oh, I just make it up. And he said it in a very blunt and earthy kind of way, with language that I won't use on this platform at this time of day. And I just was standing in the back of the room watching my glittering science communication career evaporating before my very eyes. And he then went on to describe how he had got a very long letter from somebody in prison who was very disappointed when he read the book, because the author had dramatically underestimated how many balloons full of heroin you could pack into a large intestine. And in the audience was a consultant intestine surgeon, or whatever the term is, and they went on to a very long conversation, and I was just sort of sliding down the wall at this point, and just with my head in my hands, and the director of the science festival at the time just patted me on the head, and it'll be all right. And it was just one of those moments. You can't control everything. Things happen. Things are interesting. And the British Science Festival is always fun, and the unexpected happens. But it's one of those challenges that you cannot control. People come with all of their own personal bits and pieces. When you're bringing people together, it's never going to be something you can mathematically predict the outcome, and the unexpected can be a really positive thing. However, it does not hurt to have a chat with your speakers ahead of an event so that you know what they're going to be doing, and don't just assume you know what they're going to be doing. But that was one of the things that stuck with me now, whatever it is, 12 years later.
It still happens, so.
It still happens. But we survived, we're here, it's all.
That was brilliant, Toby. I don't know what to say, to be honest, after that, but it really just emphasizes how varied our roles are in engagement, for example, how different they are, and there's different people we meet and the different functions or different projects we work on, for example. That's fantastic. I guess another question for both of you, really. Do you have any top tips for evaluation? I think you both touched upon about evaluating your projects and the work you do. Do you have any top tips for the audience today?
Happy to go first if
Go on, Toby.
you like it. I think my top one is that your evaluation needs to be proportionate to the activity that you're doing. So if you're doing something really, really light touch and really informal, your evaluation needs to be similarly light touch and informal. If you're just spending 2 minutes talking to somebody and then give them a two-sided questionnaire with 50 questions, that's going to take longer to fill out than they actually spent engaging with you, then that's completely wrong, and it will feel very weird. So making sure that that's it feels consistent with what you're doing, I think, is really important. My other one is know what questions you're asking and why. There shouldn't be anything on an evaluation interview template or questionnaire or board that you put stickers on or whatever, that you aren't asking that question for a very good reason. You don't want to waste people's time giving you information that you're never actually going to use. You want, for example, if you want to know what audience you're working with, you might ask them for the first half of their postcode, for example, to know where they've come from. But you don't need to know their full address or something. You're never going to go to their house. So making sure that you ask only the relevant information that you need to evaluate. And that comes back to knowing why you're doing this event, activity, intervention in the first place. You need to have clear objectives about what you're doing and why. And then you can use that evaluation to see if you've met those objectives. And if you're just doing an event because it makes you feel good and feel happy, that's not really a good enough reason to do something. You need to have clear aims in mind and make sure that you can then track those aims through to your evaluation so that you can say, we achieved it, we went beyond what we hoped, or it didn't work. And it's only by having that consistency between the initiation of your project and the end of it that you can draw those conclusions. I've rabbited on enough. Sorry, I'll stop.
That's brilliant, Toby. Thank you. Definitely being relevant and proportional to the event. Anna, anything you would like to add to that?
I think Toby mostly covered it. What I would just say is, like, failure is okay. I mean, the biggest learnings come from when things don't go quite the way that you want them to. And that's why I think the Fail Space project is really good, which I'll plug again. Definitely look into it because they do run workshops. And that's all I'll add.